NFL Wildcard Weekend is done. The Texans destroyed the Steelers last night in Pittsburgh, and today Mike Tomlin stepped down as coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, I'm just coming at this raw. I don't have any notes. I'm just winging this. I was gonna make a podcast about the Texans-Steelers matchup, and so we'll talk about that a little bit. But the surprising thing is that Mike Tomlin today, after meeting with ownership, told them he wanted to step down after 19 seasons, and that was a bit of a shock. A bit of a shock only because the fan base has been calling for his head most of this season when they went on their losing streak, and the fact that they haven't won a playoff game in 7 straight years. It's understandable. The Pittsburgh fans, sorry to say, you might be a little spoiled having winning records and being in the playoffs 13 of the 19 seasons that Mike Tomlin has been there in Pittsburgh. You wanted more Super Bowls. He got one in his second year and hasn't won one since. And I understand the frustration from a fan base, but I'm just going to say that if I would ask a Jet fan or a Cleveland Browns fan or a Giants fan even, or any of the teams in the NFL who don't make the playoffs every year, if they would like to be competitive and always in the playoff hunt and in playoff picture, I think every fan in those markets would be happy to have a coach like Mike Tomlin there that gets you 10, 11, 12 wins every year. I'm not sure right now who they're thinking to get to replace him. It's so fresh. They were caught by surprise. Maybe they were not caught by surprise, but I feel like Mike Tomlin just has had enough and been fed up with people being, I want to say, not grateful for what he's brought them, the consistency. Maybe he's too good of a coach because he's been able to get teams that are subpar and don't have the talent of the other teams, which is what we saw last night on the field against the Texans. They had a team. They just didn't match up head to head, but he's able to get these underachieving teams to the playoffs year after year. Maybe now there might be other jobs that open up because Mike Tomlin is available, because who wouldn't want a guy of that character and that consistency to lead their franchise? I don't know. There's been head coaching searches and interviews going on all week, but now that Mike Tomlin's in the mix, I'm sure some of the teams that have already done interviews are calling him right this second to see if he's willing to come in for an interview. Who knows? There's talk that he may want to step aside the way Sean Payton did and spend a year doing television and figure out his options. But I wouldn't if I was him, because if you look at all the jobs that are available right now, there are a lot of great franchises, winning franchises, franchises where they might need someone like Mike Tomlin just to push them into the next level. You know, we speculated in the middle of the season that maybe, hey, Mike Tomlin would go to the Giants. Well, the Giants' job is open. They've got a good defensive roster. They've got a good offensive roster. They got some stars there. They need some help and they need some work, and they need a program and some consistency that someone like Mike Tomlin could bring, as he had to the Pittsburgh Steelers the last 19 years. So my wish would be that Mike Tomlin goes to one of the jobs in its own division, like the Browns or the Ravens, and gets to play against Pittsburgh twice a year for the next 10, 20 years or however long he wants to coach there, and sticks it to them a little bit. That would be some fun, juicy soap opera type stuff, the way we're having the kind of rivalry, inter-conference rivalry that's now developing with the Bears and the Packers this year. Tomlin going to the Ravens would be amazing. And let's get John Harbaugh into Pittsburgh so they swap spots and they still keep their battle with one another as they have for the last 18 years or so. It would be kind of awesome to have that. What drama, what fun that would be. That's probably not going to happen, but boy, wouldn't it be fun to do? Let's talk about the game last night. I mean, there's not really much to talk about. The one thing I'll say, these games, all the wild card games this past weekend, they all were competitive or close up until the fourth quarter. Last night's game with the Texans and the Steelers was the same. It was 10-6 until the fourth quarter, and then the Texans defense just started destroying Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, and it was kind of almost elder abuse the way they were hitting Rodgers so much. And the turnovers, a sack, fumble, return for a touchdown, at that point it seemed like the game was over because the Steelers really couldn't do anything against that Texans defense. I've talked about it multiple times. About how terrifying they are. And with that defense, if CJ Stroud could get it together, they might have a chance to go all the way and win the Super Bowl, or at least make it to the Super Bowl. But big concern for the Texans as they're about to face the Patriots next week is CJ Stroud. He is key because that defense is saving his ass, and they really saved him last night. He had 5 fumbles last night, 2 on one play, as a matter of fact. And he lost 2 of those 5 fumbles, and he had a couple of interceptions. And it was just really kind of confusing to watch CJ Stroud navigate that pocket last night. I mean, the Steelers defense is good, but he looked almost like he has PTSD from being hit so much. I mean, the last couple of years, he's been sacked a lot. His first year, his rookie year, he had an amazing season. And then he had a bit of a setback in his second season because he was getting hammered constantly. And it kind of looked a little bit that way last night. One of his interceptions was really bad where he was sort of panicking in the pocket and he stepped up and he kind of threw way off balance. His footwork was all messed up and the ball, he didn't have enough arm strength to get that ball to his receiver and it was picked off by the Steelers. And the Texans defense is a championship defense. And they may be so good that they beat the Patriots this upcoming week. But CJ Stroud has got to get his act together if the Texans want any chance to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, because that kind of play and that amount of turnovers, that is really not going to cut it at this level and at this stage. We're getting to the best of the best at this point, and any mistake, any missed extra point, any missed field goal, a fumble, pick off, interception, pick six, anything like that, that's it. You can't have turnovers at this stage of the playoffs. And CJ Stroud should be buying everyone on that defense dinner for saving his ass, because he was doing everything he could to keep the Steelers in that game and give them a chance to come back and take the lead. But that Texans defense is no joke. And there was no way that they were going to let Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers score any more points. And like I said, Aaron Rodgers, it was questions coming into the game whether or not that was his last game. With Mike Tomlin stepping down today, I'm certain he's not coming back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It seems like he wanted to be in Pittsburgh because of Mike Tomlin. So many players want to play for Mike Tomlin. It would also be interesting to see, now that Mike Tomlin is gone, some of the current Steelers veterans who were there and love Mike Tomlin and love playing for Mike Tomlin, what do they do now? Do they look, if someone has got a contract that's up, do they look to move and go somewhere else? Do they look to follow Mike Tomlin wherever he goes? We'll have to see about that. But it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks as these coaches now are all in the mix. And it's kind of incredible how many big name successful coaches are currently available and how many big name franchises and programs that are successful have job openings. It's very rare to see the Steelers and the Ravens have job openings. These are franchises that have been, because of Harbaugh and Tomlin, so consistent and so used to winning and competing for playoffs and competing for championships every year. And because they don't get high draft choices, they don't get these new young studs coming in. They get middle of the pack or late round draft choices, and they build up teams with character players and guys who fit the system. Now, Pittsburgh fans have been wanting a high draft choice, and they may regret it once Tomlin is not there next year. And if they go into rebuilding mode, because they need a quarterback for sure, they need some help on the offense. Their defense is pretty good, but you've got injuries, and TJ Watt's been injured a lot the last couple of years. Cam Hayward's getting up there in age. Maybe he retires now because Tomlin's gone. Lots of things may come from this decision Mike Tomlin's made. I'm sure if Mike Tomlin wanted to work at any of the openings that there are in the NFL today, and he called a franchise and said, hey, I want to coach your team, they would jump at the opportunity to have him in there. And I'm sure a lot of free agent players who are coming up this year would be running to that organization to play for Mike Tomlin, because he's one of those players, coach kind of guys, kind of like what Vrabel's doing in New England. Same thing with John Harbaugh. Kevin Stefanski's going to wind up somewhere. He's a good young coach. Maybe he's someone who fits in with Pittsburgh. In my lifetime, there's only been 3 coaches in Pittsburgh, and they've all been hired in their mid to late 30s. Kevin Stefanski's kind of in that ballpark. Maybe he's a guy. He'll be there for 10, 15 years. I think the Steelers are probably going to look for a coach along that vein, along that age range, someone up and coming with a lot of promise, who's a leader of men, much like Mike Tomlin is, and a good character guy. That's who the candidate's going to be. I'm not sure who that might be in the current available coaching candidates that are popular and that we're talking about already for a week, but maybe someone like Kevin Stefanski, maybe someone like Brian Flores, maybe it's some young up-and-coming coordinator that we don't really know about yet. It's going to be very interesting next couple of days, next couple of weeks, to see what happens. Such an exciting thing. I could ramble about this all day. As more information comes in and we learn more, I'll come back. We'll talk about it if anything new happens, any developments. But I just wanted to jump in here and get on this story while it's hot. Thanks for joining and clicking and watching. I appreciate your time spending with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be back next time. We'll talk about the matchups. And thanks for watching. See you in the next episode.